I don't know if you're like me, but chances are that you've faced situations where you practice a lot and the next day it sounds like you never practiced. There are ways to address that. There are ways to make retention of practice much better. Hello, my name is Dimitri Murrath, and I'm professor of viola at the San Francisco Conservatory and violist of the Esme Quartet. In this course, I would like to discuss a little bit practice strategies, and that's what I want to talk about. There are different levels of how to practice effectively. The first level, which a lot of us have done, particularly as young children, is to mindlessly repeat things. That is level one. Things, when you play them mindlessly through and through without stopping, they might get better little by little, or they might not even improve at all, certainly not problem areas. But generally speaking, you might get a little bit better, but it is not a very effective way. Second level is you identify problems and you repeat them, but you might not even sort them. You might not be able to figure out exactly what is causing the problem. Or if you are, we're talking again about this situation where you practice, it gets better, but then the next day it's all back to square one. Then there's a third level of practice. That's a level where you start to use something called mental representations. That's where you start to think about it, sometimes even without playing the instrument. How do I do something? You have a clearer picture inside your mind, inside your brain, literally, of how something happens. And this is where some people start to use mental practice. Mental practice can be a very useful tool in learning a skill. What is mental practice? Mental practice is practicing without the instrument in your hand. Now we can go into details for mental practice a little bit further down the road. But first I want to tell you the gold standard of good practice. And that is deliberate practice. That is practice that has not only a purpose, but feedback. That is not practice that might feel great at the moment you're doing it. Why is that? It might feel like there is a lot of resistance, a lot of criticism, a lot of, well, it's just not going easily. It's not going without feeling that something is difficult. In a way, you practice the spots that are hard. The spots that are hard, but not too hard. And you get real-time feedback, which can come in the form of a recording device, even a tuner or a metronome, or probably the best is your own listening. And of course, you'll caught on to the fact that, in a way, a lesson with an instructor is that. It's a form of deliberate practice because the feedback is immediate from your teacher. But practicing alone, you can also achieve that, imagining that you have this feedback from yourself. One of the ways to achieve that is also by having a practice journal where you record your thoughts, record what you did, record how it went, and what you want to improve. So there is a book called Peak, which goes into very much detail about those different levels of how to practice. And it includes deliberate practice as the gold standard. Now, a lot of books have been written recently because a lot of research about the neuroscience of practicing and developing skill has happened in the last couple of decades. We have a much better understanding at how to practice. Some of the discoveries are very counterintuitive to what we actually sometimes have been taught, or counterintuitive to what actually feels good. For me, the biggest one that I wish I could have a time machine and tell my own young self is random practice. At first, the term random practice can sound like I want to practice randomly this, randomly that, and not really achieve anything. And it could even feel like that when you do it. However, what I'm talking about is different from what we tend to do, which is called block practice. What is block practice? Block practice is when I play for 60 minutes my scales, 60 minutes my etudes, 60 minutes my Bach, 16 minutes my other piece, let's say Brahms sonata. Now, I do those 60 minutes straight in one block. What happens over that time is that the first few minutes I don't sound very good and I have to improve, and I improve very fast, and then over time my improvement, I start to sound pretty good. And as I sound pretty good, I keep doing that for, let's say, another 40 minutes, feeling really good about myself that, wow, I'm sounding really good in that scale or in that etude. The fact is that doing that gives me the illusion of mastery. It feels good because I had 20 minutes to get into it, then I do something and then it sounds really good. But what happened in the concert? Do I have 20 minutes to get into it? No, I do not. Particularly if I'm playing an orchestra audition or any concert really. I do not have the luxury of, wait, I need my 20 minutes to get into this, and in 20 minutes I come back to you, it will be very good. There is no luxury like that. However, another way of practicing is layered practice. And layered practice takes advantage of this, that the more we retrieve something, like a memory, the more our brain thinks, this memory is important, I better make it more solid. Therefore, if instead of playing, let's say, 60 minutes of scales, etudes, Bach, piece, let's rename those. Excerpt A, excerpt B, C, and D. Let's say instead of doing 60 minutes each, 1 hour each, now I'm going to do 10 minutes each. But I'm going to do them 4 times in a day. So 4 times 10 minutes each. A, B, C, D. 10, 10, 10, 10. Then I have a break. 10, 10, 10, 10 again. A second time. 10, 10, 10, 10 a third time. 10, 10, 10, 10 a fourth time. Now, I'll have done that excerpt A 4 times in a day, only 40 minutes, not 60 minutes. But I will have retrieved that memory 4 times, and I will have done the work where it's very hard to get better 4 times. By doing that, the next day, it's as if I had practiced 4 days in one. Now, even though I'm using less time, it makes it much more efficient as a way to retain what I worked on the previous day. Now, personally, I was a little bit skeptical about this, but I actually noticed some of my younger students having real problems with retaining things between lessons. And so what we did was we made a plan where I told them all the things they needed to practice that week, but instead of doing it in a block, they had 40 to 45 minutes chunks, 2 or 3 times a day. So these are young students who have to go to school. So she had 40 minutes before school, 40 minutes after school, and if it was a day off, then there would be a third period for, after lunch or before lunch, something like that. And so there was the same thing, a layered practice in the same order of scales, Shradiak, some etude, some exercise, and a piece. Now, 10 minutes on a piece doesn't sound like very much. 10 minutes on a tragic could sound like not very much either, or on an etude. And again, I was quite skeptical about it, but this student really, it changed completely the way the next lesson they came, and they were so well prepared. So much of the things that we talked about the previous lesson stuck. So I asked the student, how did you feel doing it? And she said, I didn't feel good doing it. It really felt not so good. It felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. Again, we're talking about what feels good practicing is the blocked practice, where you go, you feel not great for 10, 20 minutes, and then 40 minutes, yes, I can do this so well. Whereas layered practice, you have a different feeling where you struggle, and you keep doing that with different things. The moment you feel good about something, oh, it's time to switch. That practicing is much more effective at retaining a skill.